Hey, it's Willie Armelini from Flowers and Scents with your floral industry buzz. Okay, so today we're going to interview Shlomo Danieli. Shlomo is a character that I've known for a long time, and in fact, I've known him so long, I need to have this interview so I can remember how long I have known him. He's been a grower, an importer. I think now he's just Shlomo Danieli Inc. As a distributor, and but the good news is we're going to find out what he is up to. So, without further ado, Shlomo Danieli. Shlomo Danieli, a very old friend of mine. Not that you're so old, but you and I have known each other. I think, I don't know. You said you started at Agrexco, right?
Yeah.
69, you said.
1969, when I finished, graduated from the Hebrew U.
Okay, well, I'm going to guess that we didn't meet maybe till I didn't really enter the business till about 78 when I moved to Miami. So, and I believe shortly after that, or maybe at the same time, Agrexco, which most people listening to this won't have any idea who they are. You were bringing in plane loads of what they called mini carnations, as I recall.
Yeah, it's starting. You know, I started working at Agrexco in 1969, and the first shipment that we sent to the States, it was like 1972.
Okay.
And it was at the beginning, direct sales only to a couple persons like Jason Penn in Boston.
Yes.
And Atlanta in New York. And I think in Chester Brown, the father.
Yes. Yeah.
And then at 74, we opened the first office in Jamaica, New York, and then we started to bring a plane load of gerbera and miniature carnation and sweetheart roses.
Right, and actually mini carnations, we call them spray carnations now, right? That's what it was, right?
Correct, yeah.
I thought so. So, hey, look, you and I have bounced around, and I'm glad to see you have lots of hair left. I cut all mine off. What little was left, I cut off. So that's what the hat's about. And good to see you after this time. You know, you and I have bounced into each other for probably since the early 80s, off and on. And then you went off to become a farmer, as I recall.
Yeah, it went like an interesting cycle, because by the end of the day, I think that I'm 54 years in the business now, starting 69, so 50 years. And basically, I think that I've done the entire cycle of the floral industry. You know, being started in Agrexco was an quality control man, because I used to be an agronomist.
Okay.
And then I've done my MBA and done the marketing for Agrexco. And then in 1980, I came to and then I went to Germany to do 6 years. That's where I met all these old gangs from the old time in the Wolfsa. You know, Jack Van Emmen, Robert Carbon, Pete Garcia. They came to visit me in Frankfurt, and then we met each other. They went to Israel. And then after 6 years in Germany, basically I quit Agrexco and came here to United States to do an import. From that time, I believe, like 85% of the production that's sold here was domestic, and maybe like 10 to 15% was import. Right. Colombia was a little bit, Ecuador for absolutely zero at that time, no other countries. And then we start to bring product on the direct flight from Tel Aviv to New York, 1984. And when I came here in 1980, I start to bring product that has not include Israel, but all other countries. Okay. I start to bring like South Africa, that was the main item, and then a little bit Italian, Dutch product. And then the cycle was that I worked until about like 96 just on import. Then I took 2 years off, studying a little bit, and then opened the farm, Blooming of Beloit.
Right. In
25
Illinois, right? In Illinois?
in Wisconsin, in
Wisconsin.
Beloit, Wisconsin.
Beloit, Wisconsin, right. Okay.
Yeah, and then 3 years ago, I sold the farm, and now just doing import of specialty cut flowers, probably from about like 5, 6 countries from the world. Not anything that is considered commodity, but only specialty item.
You probably, well, we've been hearing all this controversy about what's going on in Amsterdam. Maybe the growers are not going to be planting as much because they're afraid they're not going to get heating, or they can't afford the
The
heating.
gas,
They
cost of the
can't-
gas.
Yeah, could you shed any light on that? You've been talking to those people,
No, you see, because Holland's selling direct to everybody in America, a flower shop, you name it. I don't buy anything from Holland because theoretically people, quote unquote, don't need me for that.
I see.
Because the people, but I know because the Israeli product, part of what we grow in Israel, it's going to Holland. So I have a communication and I know what's going on. And what you say is correct. I mean, there's the fear that it's not that much the cost of the gas, but it will be that there will be no gas. Because they're even talking about eliminating the street light during night. I mean, you are in crazy situations. So unless the conflict in Ukraine and Russia will not end, I mean, basically, Russia boycott Europe. I mean, Germany is just unbelievable. And of course, Holland and England, I mean, in terrible situation. So, and in Israel, we are a little bit in a better position because about like 6, 7 years ago, they found a huge gas in the shore of Israel, like you have in the Gulf of Mexico. Here in Israel, they found exactly in the front. So we have the gas and the cost is relative under control. Maybe it will be better in position, in competition. But I mean, you have the stress because everything else is cost a lot of money. So the labor, of which is a huge factor in Israel, I mean, it's almost like higher as here, like $15, $16 per hour. That's what we pay in Israel now. So, and then of course, the cost of the fly. I mean, we are paying today close to $4 per kilo to fly the product.
To come out of Israel into America,
Yeah, it's quite a long. I mean, to New York is about 12 hours flight. Miami is about 12 hours. Los Angeles is almost 16 hours flight. So, and it's coming on a passenger flight. So, I mean, the base cost of the product. It's we said, you know what? Before you touch a case of Gerbera, when you fly from Israel, you have 25 kilo times $4. It's $100 empty box.
Empty box before you put flowers in it.
Exactly.
Hey, just for the sake of people who probably have no idea who Agrexco was, well, I'm not, or maybe it still is a guess. I don't know. Agrexco was sort of the government-sponsored grower. They were sponsoring, or at least supporting the growers, exporting all these minis and Gerbers. Yeah, way back when, it was a government-sponsored program, was it not?
It's not a government sponsor. It was something interesting. I think that the only 2 countries in the world that basically the government educate and teach the growers, it's Holland and in Israel, of which you have really a basic educational part of it. And what was happening is the grower of Israel and the government of Israel built together a marketing organization.
Okay.
Because different than what you have today in Ecuador or Colombia or even in Holland, that is a mega growers that produce product. In Israel, it's a very, very small. I mean, on average grower, it's about like 4 or 5 acres. That's about it. So to put all the grower together, every grower got his own product. Okay. So to consolidate together, the government and the grower build, and it was 50-50 owned by the government and by the grower themselves.
Okay.
And usually the CEO, the chair, was a guy that was nominated and agreed by the 2 bodies, the growers and And yeah, they have done a good job. I mean, on the 70s and the 80s, I mean, it was probably the #1 exporter
Yeah.
of fresh cut flowers to Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, today you have, of course, a lot of money in Kenya and Zimbabwe and all those areas that also, quote unquote, organized by private sector and government give them a kind of
So does Agrexco still exist?
no.
No.
Agrexco went bankrupt about like 7-8 years ago, and it was sold in pieces. You know, the operation in Amsterdam sold to one organization, part of the GOR in Israel sold. I mean, what happened is, I mean, it was right because immediately, until then, there was no private export that much.
Right.
But because it was already on the 80, you know, the monopoly of Agrexco was broken, you have also about 6 or 7 exporters, and each of them took part of the grower and basically export the product. So it was like about few months of like a shake-up, and after that, you know, the entire marketing. And I think that the growers suffer a little bit, but by the end of the day now, the situation is almost back to normal.
So what are they growing in Israel now?
I think that the #1 item that it depends where, because you see still to United States, the export is probably like about 12-15% from the entire. Most of them go to Europe, direct to Germany, Holland, England. So you have that. To United States, it's completely different because into Europe, Gypsophila, Limonium, growing mostly over there. Here to United States, I think #1 item is Lysianthus.
Okay.
#2 item is Tweedia. And then, of course, you have the greenery that Israeli have a very high standard quality,
yeah,
like the Roscos, Pittosporum, miniature Pittosporum, Greenbell, Lepidium. And then flax, it's quite a bit also. And during the winter time, I mean, the production is by far bigger because Israel, it's like Chile, it's heavy seasonal.
Right.
So in the winter time, you have, of course, you know, the peony, of which was the flagship that started. I mean, basically, we started the first to make the peony, I mean, long season product. I mean, until we started with this, peony was maybe 6 weeks product, April, May, and that's it.
Yep.
And then when we started 69, I mean, 89 or 87, to bring direct peony from Israel, we started in December and all the way until May. So that's the revolution of the peony into the United States. And now you have them from Chile, from Alaska, from Holland, yeah, from
Carolina, yeah, and the Carolinas, they're everybody's growing peonies, and what a lovely crop. But Shlomo, we're here because first of all, I wanted to interview you because I've known you for so long, and we've never had this opportunity to sort of share these thoughts. But obviously, you're here because you're selling flowers. So. And you're selling sort of, I won't say unusual, but you're selling crops that are more difficult to get, I guess, and specializing in sort of not your basic roses and carnations and pom-poms.
Yeah, from the beginning, you know, like Agrexco that always sold the niche line of product, not a commodity, what we call, because we cannot compete on commodity, cost of labor, cost of freight.
Sure.
It's just prohibited. And now today, it's like in the farming Deloitte that I grew only unique special item. People didn't even know at the beginning what I'm offering them when I started to offer beside the basic.
Right.
You know, when we start to sell them Aronia or Spirea, people didn't know what I'm talking about. and it was fun because that's exactly what happened in 80 when I started to sell Italian Ginestra. People didn't know what I'm talking about. When I started to bring from Africa, Liatris, it will say, no, Liatris is a summer item. You cannot bring it in the world. Nobody will buy it in the winter. So, we are selling two kind of unusual. First of all, out of season, of which that is, big part of what we sell. And then, of course, what we call a specialty cut flowers. Like when we're starting the Twidia from Israel, like we're starting the peony from Israel, Lysianthus. Until we started, people didn't handle that. Twidia came maybe from Japan, maybe like 10 bunches here, 10 bunches there, and the price was $2.50 per stem. And when we started bringing it from Israel, with the education, with the help of the education that we have, we could sell it almost like half the price, the same quality. And that was very interesting. Like when we started with the peony, nobody knows that you can bring peony in January and February here. The price was a little bit high because we grew them in Israel in greenhouse, not like in the Carolina, that outdoor. And it's not only that you grow them in the greenhouse, you need to keep them in the dormancy time in refrigerator. So, it's like 8 months to keep product in refrigerated.
Wow.
It's quite a job. That was expensive, but at least was available. And we sold it. So yeah, we are selling mostly specialty cut flowers from unique places that you don't have them as what I call a commodity or the day-to-day product. It's not like lily, alstroemeria, pom-pom. By the way, we're starting a very interesting garden roses project that is also became a new item. After the rose.
Yeah, garden
business,
roses. Yeah, they're sort of a specialty item. Everybody is sort of running that way because they are popular, and then people have figured out how to make them last longer.
Right. So yeah, so we are concentrating mostly. Just a moment. We are concentrating only on out of season and specialty cut flowers.
And how will people find you, Shlomo?
How they find me? You know what? I don't think that in the last 10 years we try to look for new customers. I have people that I'm dealing with them in the last 20 years, and we will supply them. We are not. Let's put it like that. We try to serve good the people that we supply them now, because the production that we have is relatively limited. And it's not that we are chasing more customers. What we do is try to do a little bit educational on Instagram with the product that we have.
Okay.
As a grassroots people, but then we refer them to our current customer. So we are doing in a way so that we are not looking for more and more customers.
Well, how would they? I'm not a big Instagram user personally, but how would they find you on Instagram? Because I believe you're even interested in buying an ad on my website, is what your person tells me. So you are looking for some exposure, whether you're looking for I think you're looking for good customers, maybe.
Yeah, you're right. And the way that we do that is only, people that we got recommendation usually, and the reason that we are looking for specifically in your case to put an ad is what we would like to show the people what we have to offer to the wholesaler industry. So, to let them know that we have them, because people don't know all what we have, the unique. And if you will see the way that we will promote it, it will be again, I'm not competing with anybody else on roses or alstroemeria, but I would like people to know that we have 52 weeks Twidia. I want the people to know that in the winter time, that can depend on us to have peony. So it will be more educational. People know what we have, and people that will come from that, it will be like we refer them to the people that we are doing business. Because there is no reason for us to compete in one place
Sure.
in two wholesaler. Let's put it like that.
Yeah. So are you operating as Shlomo Danieli Inc. now?
Yes, yeah. After we sold Blooming of Beloit, I mean, until then, until we had the farm, everything was Blooming of Beloit. And then now all the import of the specialty cut flowers is basically under Shlomo Danieli Inc.
Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting stuff, and I'm glad that you're still doing this, Shlomo. You know, I'm guessing you're about 80 now because I think you're 10 years older than me, or maybe some more. Maybe you're a little older. I don't know, or younger. I don't know. If you started in '69, I was just getting. I was a junior in high school, so I think you got some years on me. But you don't have to tell me. It's okay.
No, listen, I'm proud of every year. I mean, I got extremely, how do you say that right? Challenging and interesting life history. Born in 1946, I'm 76.
Okay, all right. I figure you're about there. Yeah, okay, well,
Yeah,
no, it's
yeah.
been an interesting story, and I'm glad some of us are around to tell this story because, as you know, maybe I've been doing some interviews. I've been trying to catch a lot of these old people that are retiring off. I say old people because, you know, we're all
That's
getting.
okay.
I'm yeah, trying to capture these people while I can and have an interview so we at least have this conversation recorded in history. You know, it's in the internet somewhere. I certainly will publish it in about next week, I believe. I will put this interview out, and people will maybe will try to find you because maybe you have something unique that. And I like to find people that are doing unique things. You know, I interview the biggest companies and the smallest companies just because I think this flower business demands that. We have big commodity growers and you have specialty growers that are very specific to where they're finding the product. They're looking for good product. They're, you know, like you said, you've been doing this long enough. You have good customers that know what you do, and you have good sources that know what you know where to find those good flowers.
Yeah. And again, you know, I think the advantage without any being, you know, like I don't know how to call it even, but without any
Without any ego.
being in humble, let's put it like that, being in humble, you know, the fact that, you know, I work in our industry, almost in any segment, from the quality control as a retail shop. When I came to America, I had a retail shop. And then after that, importer, and then a grower, and then a wholesaler. When I was in Chicago, I used to be almost like a floral. It was about like 10 years of a wholesaler business that basically controlled the market of Chicago, you know what? And then after that, importer. I think that one advantage that I have is that I understand the grower because I was a grower, the difficulties and the kind of dependency that they have on factor that is out of their control.
Yeah.
So my basic, I understand and I believe when somebody is telling me I got a cold weather and I know what is the effect of it.
Yeah.
And then I work in the shipping, so I know when the flight delayed, I know what is that mean. Well, and then when I was a retailer, I want the product. And you know, now as a wholesaler, I know what the wholesaler telling me, listen, I need the invoice on time so I can, when the shipment arrive, I can, you know, match the shipment with the paperwork. Exactly. I understand that he's not lunatic, but he's really needed because I needed, when I had a wholesaler, I needed as well. So I think that's given me a little bit better perspective to understand my customer. And you know what, that's the reason, by the way, that I don't believe that any other people that I know, we have a specialty person that all what he's do is customer service. Is basically all what he's do is keeping my wholesaler all the time
informed,
intact, informed, where is the product since he gave us the order until it is in doorstep. You know, all the time. He contact the customer service and he can get the information. So we try to put on a customer service quite a bit because I believe that the service is as good as price, as good as the quality of the product.
Well, that's something that you learn from being in the business a long time. Yes.
Right. And today also the business change in huge way. In
Yeah.
the past, basically, wholesaler bought to sit on inventory. Today is back to back. I mean, today they sell and they give you the order. So the importance of being precise of what they give you, it's much more important, and it's put on us a little bit more pressure, because in the past, if we got yellow instead of orange, you say, okay, I will work with that. Today, the sky falling down, I mean, because you say, I'm going to lose my biggest customer.
And it's your fault. FedEx me some boxes.
And you know, it's always when you do the mistake, always when you do the mistake, is the mistake that is to the crucial customer of the
Always.
wholesaler.
Yes,
Always.
it's my best customer. Yeah, I'm going to
Yeah.
lose. Yeah, and it's your fault. So, hey, Shlomo, it's been a pleasure to talk to you and have this little chat. We've been trying to do this for a week or two, but we finally pulled it off. And
If the two of us can work on the computer,
well, yeah, that's the blind leading the blind here, trying to figure out how to get this to work. But we made it work. So, you know, we're not that old, so we can figure this out. So thank you for your time. And hey, enjoyed talking to you. And oh, one last question. Who was in charge of Agrexco back? Who was the big chief at Agrexco? Gideon Gorin?
what, the Agrexco New York?
No, yeah, in New York. Who was the main person there?
Oh, it's depend when. I mean, you know what? I started the first one to bring the selling to New York, and when we opened the office, he was the first New York manager, and then after that it was Ivy Knir and Yossi Pinchasi. It's depend on what period.
Yeah, they kept changing them, right? Gideon Gorin comes to mind. That's the name.
Yeah, every 3 years,
They changed.
you know, they changed the manager of in each branches. I mean, that's the same as I was in Germany before that, you know, for 3 years.
All right. Well, my friend, I appreciate your time today, and you have a great day. And thank you for coming on Flowers and Scents.
Absolutely, my pleasure. It's always nice to see you.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom. That's the most important.